Previously on My Love's a Waning Tempest. Natalie, the well-proportioned cattle prod apprentice from Soligorsk, has fallen in with Tad Beckenbauer's ironic former tricycle gang and will have to think fast if she's to get out of that bank robbery striptease before Gretchen steals all of mad old Uncle Harry's vintage pigskin hats. Theodore, the dry butcher tickler from Basingstoke, is locked in hot negotiations with Wizard Jenkins, three-time winner of the Best Teeth in Hampshire competition and the town's most notoriously naughty barrister. When not nipple-tweaking the waitresses at Bernard's all-night coffee shack and Dump Body Parlor, he's hitting the dance floor of the local discotheque Lorene's Tomb with a bloody great meat hammer and rubbing his crotch on unsuspecting accountants. Leonard What I Had for Lunch has lost Glynis and spends his days wandering the hillocks and dells of nearby Calais looking for small dogs to kill with a rake. And in Delaware, the vast and enraged Mothmen have banded together to take on rival gang the Pylons, all of whom wear incredibly shiny pants and sit atop Lego brick replicas of dinosaurs playing out-of-tune dented tubas and pelting nearby geese with their own poop.
Sorry, Madeline, we've got to interrupt this broadcast with the news.
Okay, no problem. I'll adapt. Previously on the news, Chad Groenel, the perfectly groomed, foppish weatherman, had his eyes set on Brevlin and Yolanda's anchor desk with steely ambition, while Brevlin's recent tryst with teleprompter operator Selena Tits has led to workplace tension for him and former love, coffee girl, and professional fingernail appreciator Leela Bigminch. And...
Sorry again, Madeline. We're now being told we are running the news later. Somebody got drunk, made it sound like important breaking news, but we've looked into it and, well, quite frankly, we laughed. One of us even peed a little, so scratch the news, and instead we're going to run the after-movie diner.
Right, and what's that then?
Oh, it's a film show, so no need for previously on, okay?
But it's my life, Dennis. I have to do the previously on voiceovers. If I don't, I cease to have a purpose. And if I cease to have a purpose, then I cease to be. And if I cease to be, what the hell happens to my penis?
Well, I don't follow your logic, but seriously, it's really not needed.
I don't care. I'm locking myself in and doing one anyway.
Don't make me get out the radio flange goblet harpoon.
Previously on the after-movie diner, Lenny Quimbucket was caught outside the gates of the palatial stately home come softcore pawn shooting location dancing in a pair of knee-length plaid socks, which Lord of the Manor, Gerald Yuck Badger, had previously outlawed because it gave him, quote, the raging man tingles, end quote.
Right, then fire at will.
No, wait, I'm almost done. Finding out that she is no longer Herb Trouser's biological third half-niece, twice removed, Alan Sugar wrestles with a question of identity while being covered with strawberry preserve by an over-enthusiastic puppy dentist named Eric. Hello, yes, hello, marvellous, yes, hello, wonderful, splendid, hello, put that down, Celia, hello, yes, good morning, welcome, good evening, good afternoon, good night, goodbye. To this, smashing, excellent, tight, pert, bright, upright, standing, erect episode of the After Movie Diner. What a fantastic show we have got for you today! And first up, we're going to have a little bit of feedback from the listeners, both on Facebook and in voicemail formats. And so... to Facebook. Facebook. Yes, exactly, yes. And this week's show will be all about the films of Gareth Evans and the Raid and Merantau series. Peter Osmond writes on the Facebook group, he says, serious thoughts on Le Raid 2, that's the French version, and Evans' other films. The Raid 1 was a game-changer in the action genre. It took hand-to-hand combat that was generally confined to Hong Kong and Chinese cinema and took it to brutal levels. Can it be compared to films like Ong Bak? Yes, it can. Even though Ong Bak and The Protector are ace fight flicks, The Raid is pretty much a non-stop adrenaline shot for 110 minutes, never letting up. The Raid 2 could have gone the same way. It could have been a rehash of the first film, but Evans took a different approach, a grander, more narrative-based approach. The action is taken to extreme levels of brutality that is offset by some unfocused, at times dramatic scenes, which for me is the film's biggest problem. Merantau, all I'm going to say is eco in the container yard. And Doc Paul Crowson, or Dr.Action, who'll be joining me later on the show, he writes, eco kicks ass in the container scene, to which Peter Osmond responded, I could pick out all the fights, like the fight in the lift, the fight in the nightclub, and the one-take fight in the office. That film was insane. Oh shit, and the bridge fight. Doc Paul then says, it is a great flick. Amazing he cranked it up with The Raid. Peter Osmond then says, I know, right, a bit more budget means a hell of a lot more ass-kicking. Doc Paul Crowson says, spent budget wisely. Peter Osmond says, well, look what he did for The Raid 2 on a 4.3 mil budget. If he can do that with that amount of money, I'd love to see where he goes with a 10 to 15 mil budget. Dr. Paul Crowson says, Marvel would shit themselves. Peter Osmond then responded, he should make a Punisher or Daredevil movie. Crank that shit up to ultra-violent mayhem. Dr. Paul Crowson then says, a Gareth Evans Punisher. Brilliant. Or Iron Fist with Adkins. That's Scott Adkins. Peter Osmond then says he really should make a film with Adkins. Imagine the destruction. Dr. Paul Crowson says it'll definitely happen. I hope. Peter Osmond then says he should make a Lethal Weapon-style buddy flick with Atkins and Statham as a couple of Cockney cops. Oh, have a banana, Cockney cops coming down the street. One's by the book and the other's off the hook. There's the tagline for it. Dr. Paul Crowson says, now that, sir, would be my dream team. Peter Osmond says, Adkins is Mike Rango, by the book's detective who's partnered with Statham's loose cannon, Dave Stash. They are Rango and Stash. Dr. Paul Crowson says, sounds like another buddy cop film, Cop and a Half, I think. Kyle Polling from the Bloodbaths and Boomsticks podcast, what up, me blood booth and Bobsticks, poochie poo? I have no idea what I was just saying. He says, I did not like it at all, almost walked out of the theatre, to which I said, wait, what didn't you like, Carl, Raid 2? And Carl says, yeah, I hated the Raid 2. He says, mainly because the trailer sold it as one thing, guy goes into prison undercover, fights and insanity ensues, and what I felt I got was a story I did not care a thing for, interspersed with some awesome fights. To which Doc says, at least you recognize the fights were awesome. Carl says, maybe it's unfair to judge it based on the first one, but it is a sequel, the first one being non-stop action from almost the start to the finish. Part 2 was way too involved in its own story. And Doc said, personally, I'm glad he tried something different, but I know exactly what you mean, sir. And I think we're going to find this, that a lot of people felt that way about the Raid 2. I think it's going to be a divisive film. La 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 la.
Okay. This is CJ here from Three Black Geeks. I just wanted to say I enjoyed your show, Mr. John Cross. Listened to it. You had different areas and subjects and stuff, but just wanted to chime in about the Raid and Raid 2, my movie-going experience. I actually saw the first Raid. I remember when the first Raid got announced, I think at some of the film festivals, I believe South by Southwest. I kind of was going out of my way to hunt it down, and where I live at in the D.C. metropolitan area, movies like that are kind of hard to come by and stuff, but thankfully they actually showed it in the D.C. area, so I ended up going to see it. I gotta say, I love the movie. Minus superhero movies at the time, it was rare to see an action movie that just gives you back-to-back wall-to-wall action from beginning to end. And besides the action, I felt the story was actually, the story that they were telling with the main character, Rama, was actually pretty good. You get a good idea of how ruthless the bad guys are, which I loved and enjoyed, and I kind of miss. To me, it kind of harkened back to the 80s action movies where you had bad guys that were actually bad guys and stuff that were actually willing to kill people. It was, if anything, I would say Raid really just set the bar in terms of action movies, and I think that's something that a lot of American movies are missing, is that kind of stuff. And I just miss American movies that have that kind of action stuff like that, So, and it was nice to see that it was based off of martial arts styles a lot. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I told the other guys about it. Other two guys on my podcast about the movie, and they loved it. They enjoyed it. And in regards to Raid 2, I loved that movie even more. I would say it was a long movie, but if you didn't really feel it, it felt long, but it didn't feel like it was overly long. It felt my only criticism about the Raid 2, but other than that, I enjoyed the story that they expounded upon in the first movie. And I definitely enjoyed the action movie. I definitely also liked how they brought Mad Dog back in the Raid 2. But other than that, I just want to say, yeah, I love both Raid and Raid 2, and I can't wait for, you know, us to get to Raid 3, you know, which I'm pretty sure is going to happen at some point. But yeah, that's my movie-going experience. I enjoyed both movies. So yeah, take it as you will. So keep doing what you're doing. Love the show, and take care.
La 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 la. Thank you, CJ. Right back at you, sir. Okay, one more bit of business before we start the show properly. I would just like to urge everybody go over to iTunes, TalkShoe or Stitcher and rate and review us. That's it. That's all I'm going to say this week. Go over to iTunes, TalkShoe or Stitcher and rate and review us. The links are on the website, aftermoviediner.com. Just go there and rate us. Did you know that you can actually rate without reviewing? You can just give us a star rating. Just do that today. It takes a second. Go to iTunes, TalkShoe or Stitcher. The links are on the website, aftermoviediner.com, and rate and review us. Leave us a review if you wish, but you can just rate us with a star rating. Click whatever star you feel the show deserves and move on with your day. Please, please, please do that. It would help immensely. I know you. I'm watching you right now. Not really. Or maybe I am. However, I guess you're sat there late at night, probably not wearing much and scratching yourself, scouring some podcast-providing service, desperate to find the one glimmer of hope in a sea of blabbermouth halflings expounding their opinions to nobody. You like B-movies, but which B-movie podcast do you pick? Well, look no further. Bypass the rows and rows of other shiny shows and delve instead into the beautiful and brilliant B-movie bargain bin. You know how you know it's good? No, it's not just the beards the hosts have, although that's a definite plus. It's the films, it's the fun. That's once a month at bmoviebargainbin.com. 2 men, 2 beards, 2 films, 1 show, the B-Movie Bargain Bin. We can't and won't be bettered. Come on down today to bmoviebargainbin.com, just off Route 49 next to the store with all the stuffed sheep heads in the window. With doggy. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another episode of the After Movie Diner. And sometimes having a guest on the show is an embarrassment of riches. Sometimes you can't quite believe your luck. And sometimes you have back-to-back episodes where you have your favorite guests on talking about some of your favorite movies. And it just feels like an absolute thrill. Well, this week we have... Well, he's really my podcasting right arm. And he is my brother from... the other podcast I do, Dr.Action, the Kick-Ass Kid. He is the man who knows more about 80s and 90s action movies than anybody else on the planet and isn't arrogant about it. Let us all put our bits together and make a slapping noise for the wonderful, awesome Dr.Action himself, Mr. Paul Crowson. Hello, sir.
How are you? That was a lovely introduction. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, sir. You're welcome. It was rambling. It wasn't as tight and concise as I would have liked. I probably should have written something down, but whatever. You speak from the heart of your bottom, and then that's what you get.
That's what we do here.
Yeah, we're all about, as Billy Joel would say, we're all about soul.
Is that what he says?
That's what he says. Only he says it with like little stumpy arms. Because Joel does have stumpy arms.
It's a birth defect.
Yeah, if he can pull a model like Brinkley, then we're all in luck, really, aren't we? We've all got possibilities. If you think of the little midge with a little bald head,
It's probably just the right height. It's probably just walks into her. She gets it.
Power of piano playing. That's what it is.
Yeah, I suppose having a huge bank balance doesn't hurt either.
Yeah. Oh, which I'd like to say, I'm not knocking the Joel. I love the Joel. I am a big fan of the Joel. But he is a stubby little bald guy. As is Elton John. So maybe, like, who knows?
Maybe they're one and the same.
Yeah.
Fucking bold.
And other questions that the aftermovie... That's what the Aftermovie Diner does. It asks questions. It delves into the recesses of the world and tries to find a way to to really pick at them. But what are we covering this week, sir? Because it's exciting this week. We're really delving into what has been, for the action genre, something of a revolution and a renaissance.
Yeah, very much so. We are covering The Raid 1 and 2. Indeed,
the movies of Gareth Evans and Iko Uwais.
Yes, what a talent.
We will be touching slightly on Merantau, merely just to, as I like to do with that movie, trumpet it and get people to hunt it out, because it is for all the success of The Raid and The Raid 2, it is the lost movie of Evans and Iko to some extent.
Well, without it, you don't get The Raid.
Right.
So it has to be touched, tweaked, and licked slightly.
Yes, it does. It has to be mentioned, polished, put out there, and broadcast, just so that people are like, what is this Merantau of what you speak? Where can we find it? How can we get at it? Should we watch it nude while glazed in one of our favourite preserves? And all I can say is yes to all those questions and more. So is it fair to say that you were aware of The Raid before you were aware of anything else, or had you actually seen Merantau before you'd even heard of The Raid?
I was aware of The Raid. I think I saw The Raid first, and I was sort of flicking through IMDb to see what Gareth Evans had done, and I saw that, and I vaguely remembered seeing it in HMV. So I went to HMV, and it was in there, and it was very cheap, so I bought myself a copy and you a copy.
Yeah, it was really quick the way it happened, because The Raid was still in theatres, and you had said to me, oh man, you have to go see this. And I was like, yeah, okay. But, I'm still, like, it was, whatever it was, 2 years ago, or was it 2 years ago?
We'd only just started Dr.Action.
Yeah.
So
and I was I was sort of still frantically catching up with 80s and 90s action. I was like, I had a rocky road with Asian movies, not liking them particularly because they tended to be long, ponderous, and a lot of
sometimes slapsticky comedy.
Well, there's two things I don't like about, or there's two things, not to say I don't like, there's two things I find difficult getting past on Asian action movies, and it tends to be, on one hand, the comedy aspect of it tends to bother me, and the other aspect is when they do the historical dramas, and while it's very beautiful to look at, and while it's very stylish and very artistic, I find the plots and the traditions and the history and all that very impenetrable, because I think there's like a language barrier, and there's also a cultural barrier where they have a lot more emphasis placed on tradition and spirituality and certain things that we don't connect with. And just from, when I'm watching an action movie or I'm watching a thing like that, I'm fairly simplistic in my taste, and I just like it to be, good fun, get in, get out. I like the American model. I was saying on the recent Nerd Lunch that I did about the Ip Man movies, one of the things that I liked so much about the two Donnie Yen movies is their slight American style, not to the direct plot, but to the way that they told the story, to the storytelling. There's a slight sort of Rocky-esque quality to it, which I could connect with very quickly, and therefore everything else that happened in those movies I really appreciated. So when you had said to me a couple of years back, oh, you have to go see The Raid, it was merely because it was playing in a cinema that wasn't too far away from me. It was playing on a day when I went to see it in the afternoon, so it was either...
I think you finished work and went straight there.
Yeah, or maybe it was an early finishing day or something like that. I don't know what it is, because I saw it at around 3... Maybe I saw it at 5 p.m. There was some reason why it was easy for me to go see it, and I thought, oh, all right, like, the doc's mentioning it a lot. Like, you weren't just mentioning it a little bit. You were like, you really have to go and see this. And I think I may have even said to you, yeah, but I don't like this, this, and this. And you're like, there's none of that. There's no there's no of that silly comedy, and there's none of the kind of traditions.
I think I probably said, you won't laugh once.
Yeah. But there's none of that, like, traditionalist or, spiritual stuff.
No, because, I mean, I'm not into, like, the really old traditional... I can watch them. But
sure.
if I have a choice between watching Jet Li in modern day saying something like Unleashed or something like that, or an old setting,
yeah,
like Once Upon a Time in China. I know that's probably, I'm saying that and people are saying, oh no, you've got to see Once Upon a Time, and I'm not knocking them.
Yeah.
Great films, but I prefer to watch them in modern day. It's just how I prefer to watch them.
No, I mean, I've seen Once Upon a Time in China. I've seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, because, of course, the year that came out, everybody went and saw it. I've seen Hero and some of those. And I've even seen, like, bits of the old, like, Shaolin movies and things like that. They're fine. They're just not entirely my taste. I'd never really sort of seen the kind of frenetic, brutal Asian action movies. But you had said go see it, so I went and saw it, and it wasn't long after I went and saw it in the cinema that I got that package, and you had Merantau in the DVD in that package. So although I was a little bit later than you, it wasn't by much. It was just by sort of a few weeks that you and I saw The Raid and then Merantau, and were both sort of emailing each other about them constantly for like 4 months, going, fuck me, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's the same year that Expendables 2 came out, and you could tell. You just know that Sylvester Stallone. I mean, there was all that talk that Expendables 2 was going to be PG-13. The Raid was out hard, very hard R. Must have been closely bordering on an NC-17. Saw how good it was, and he must have shit himself, thinking, I'm trying to make an action epic myself, and that's come out.
Well, yeah, he tweeted, didn't he, either during the production of X2 or just after it, that he'd seen The Raid, and he was like, we've really got to step up our game for part 3. And it's interesting to me as well that during post-production on X3, that the director, what's his name again? Patrick
Hughes.
Patrick Hughes has now been tapped to do the Raid remake. So I can only assume, Hollywood being what it is, that there is some action in X3 that has led them to believe he can do it. Because there's no action in Red Hill that really could lead you to believe that he could do the Raid. I mean, there's some like gangs and stuff and some gunplay and things that I guess the early part of the Raid could lead you to believe Hughes could do it. But all I'm saying is, considering Hughes's first big American movie is going to be X3, and he's already getting tapped to do probably what will be one of the highest profile action remakes. Possibly of all time, unless they start remaking Die Hards and Lethal Weapons and shit, which I hope they don't do, I'm just saying.
No. God forbid.
They must have seen some dailies from X3 that make them think rather, yep, okay, we've got our guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, as well, if they've got Sylvester Stallone probably saying you should hire him as well. Personally, my choice is they wouldn't make a remake.
Right, no, I know, yeah.
But if I had to if I was in charge of it, I'd probably get Isaac Florentine and Scott Adkins on.
Yeah, well, this is the nice thing. Is weirdly enough, I was watching one of the extras on my Raid Blu-ray, which is Gareth Evans talking in conversation after a screening of the movie with the guys who did the American score for it. One of the guys, I think, is from Linkin Park or something.
Mike Shinoda.
Yeah. Because there's two scores. There's the Indonesian score and the American score. Why, again, there has to be an American score, I don't know. That was down to Sony when Sony picked up the movie. They were like, oh, we want you to rescore it with these guys. And Gareth has actually said, like, 50% of one score he really likes and 50% of the other score he really likes. And, you know, some bits of the score does it better in one and some bits of the score does it better in others. So, I mean, both have his blessing.
Yeah.
he also said that the Raid remake came up very briefly, and considering this was while the original Raid was still being screened, I can only imagine this was very, very early talks. So I can only imagine like someone at Sony saw the Raid and was like, you know what, Gareth, it's great, but I think it would be so much better if we made it with Americans. Because Gareth Evans says in this talk after the movie, he says, yeah, I'm executive producing the piece of shit remake is what he calls it. He doesn't mince words, Evans, which is nice. He's got that like young British filmmaker on an international stage for the first time and doesn't really understand he shouldn't be saying fucking shit, whatever, but he does. It's great.
Which is understandable. I mean, it's so soon after it's come out that some fucking bigwig in America's gone, Americans don't like to read, Gareth.
Yeah, in fact, there is a dubbed version of the Raid that's on the Blu-ray, and it's shit. The dubbing is absolutely... It's what's weird about it is that they've attempted to dub it within the mouth movements of the characters, and rather than caring about the intonation or the speech patterns of an American person. So they're trying to like rush certain words and fit certain things into the, brief garbled mouth movements of the actors. So it sounds really odd. It sounds like you're watching... I mean, dubbing sounds odd anyway, but it sounds like you're watching an old episode of Dallas or something, because it's all like, we should go into the building, I think. Yes, we should go into the building. There are some bad guys in the building. Oh, they are the worst kind of guys. Like, it's all this sort of odd, like, stilted American dubbing, which is just terrible.
And the stupid thing is, there's not a great deal of talking in it. I mean, you're not going to see it. You're certainly not going to see the Raid 1 for plot or Tarantino-esque.
No, in fact, the dialogue is not... See, what's also interesting is the dialogue is not particularly good. Like, the dubbed dialogue is pretty awful. But when you see... when you read subtitles and you see the Indonesian actors speaking the lines, you're not thinking about the dialogue in terms of how would this sound in an American voice. You're just accepting... that is the way those people talk.
Yeah. And they've got a great sounding voice as well.
Oh yeah, I love the language. The language is not difficult to listen to at all. And like you say, you get all the different voices and the different registers. Whereas the dubbed version sounds like it's all been done by the same guy.
Days of their lives. Yeah,
literally saying, I think we should go into the building. Sarge, I don't know that we should go into the building. I think we should go into the building. Like, it's all done literally like one guy sat in front of a microphone doing silly voices. And then when it gets to like the big villain, he's like, yes, I'm going to talk like this because I'm a villain. It's really ridiculous.
I am going to have to watch it in the dubbed version.
I had it on. I put it on to watch it the other day. And I didn't realise it was dubbed at first because obviously it's just him training at the beginning of the movie and praying and stuff. And it wasn't until he spoke to his wife that I was like, oh shit, I'm watching the dubbed version. Because he was like, I didn't want to wake you, my darling. Oh, but you said you would wake me.
You look so peaceful sleeping there.
It's just so ridiculous. But yeah, they're doing a Raid remake and they're doing Patrick Hughes, so we'll wait and see. And what's interesting is on this extra that I saw, he says he doesn't want to tell anyone the actors that he would like to see in the movie. But subsequently, obviously, like a few years have passed now, and Raid 2 is out, and they still haven't done the remake yet. Which again makes the remake even more redundant. If you it's one thing to do it the way they did it with Let the Right One In, where they kind of did it one year and then the next year they kind of remade it for American audiences. It flopped, by the way. Like the original Let the Right One In was, or Let Me In, or whatever it's called, was a big success as far as foreign movies are in America. And then the remake, like nobody went to see. So I don't even know why they're doing it. But anyway, if they haven't done it by now and the Raid 2's already come out, like, I don't know why they would even bother. But
it just seems a waste of money.
Yeah, it seems stupid. But Gareth Evans has said now more openly in interviews later on as time has passed that he loves Scott Adkins and wants to get Scott Adkins in the Raid remake somehow. Like, he doesn't understand. He must have seen, like, Ninja 2 and stuff. He doesn't understand why Adkins is not a major action star. And I think if Evans's American career, because he's also talked in interviews after the Raid 2 about possible American movies he has coming up, because I think he wants to now do one in the West, one in the East, one in the West, one in the, and go back and forth and do it like that. And I know he has a UK movie he wants to do, and he has an American movie he wants to do. But if, like with Eco, he said very definitely that he wants to make Eco an action star, and he will be doing other movies with Eco in the future. I hope he does the same with Scott Adkins. And while he has this cachet, he runs forward.
I think he'll pair them up. I think it's getting to the point where, certainly for how much money they've made, he might be given a certain amount of money, and they'll probably, hopefully, just leave him to it. If he's going to go and make a $60 million film, then he's going to be under close scrutiny of what he's going to be doing. But if he says, just give me $20 million, I'll go and make an action film, they'll probably say, well, go and do what you want then.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he's hoping that he can make Indonesian movies the way he wants, and that will give him enough clout for someone in Hollywood to say, okay, here's, like you say, 35, 40 mil, and we'll leave you alone, kind of thing.
Yeah.
The trouble is the Raid 2 has not made a lot of money. The Raid 2 has not been the success everyone was hoping it to be. They wheeled it out across thousands of theatres in the US, and it's not made a lot of money at all. Now, in terms of cutting a profit, it doesn't have to, because it was made for $3.5 million, which is fucking ridiculous when you see it.
I mean, that
just doesn't make any sense, does it?
I mean, it's how...
It's like Kubrick meets Tony Scott. So how it was made for $3.5 million doesn't make any sense.
If I was like a Hollywood bigwig sitting in an office, if I was watching it, I'd have Michael Bay sat in front of me, J.J. Abrams, probably even Steven Spielberg, everybody who does like high-budget films, and I'd watch the film, then turn to them and go, now explain yourselves.
Yeah.
Because How is it made for $4.5 million?
Well, how was The Raid made for like $1.2 million or whatever it was made for?
Both films put together with the budgets is what is less than what Brad Pitt makes on one film.
Both budgets of probably the budgets of Merantau, The Raid, and The Raid 2 put together wouldn't even get you a 30 minutes of a Judd Apatow romantic comedy.
It's
and Judd Apatow sits in his own house with his own wife and his own kids and his friends and films them not being very funny. And that's like 100... We'll give you 150 million, Judd. How about that? It's that.
I'd be so pissed off if I was sort of one of the money men in Hollywood. I'd be like, Judd, where's all the money gone?
Now, we have to point out that obviously The Raid doesn't feature any stars as far as Hollywood is concerned, and it's made in a country that notoriously has no labour laws, so has no unions and whatever. So they're not paying people the fair crack and all the rest of it. But even so, if someone said to you, The Raid was a $20 million picture, it would still, taking into account unions and having to pay the people the right wage and blah, 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 blah. If it was a $20 million picture, you would still be like, that's fucking incredible, based on today's movies.
Well, both films look brilliant.
Yeah. Well, The Raid, what I was impressed to find out watching the extras was The Raid has CGI, it has massive sets that were built, it has the van that they pull up in was specifically put together because they couldn't afford a real SWAT van, so they had to like build one from the ground up. All the costumes and everything, all the months of training it took, the cameras they had to purchase it wasn't. It's not like you and I could go out and find an office building and make the raid if we were able to do martial arts. Like, let's say we could just do the martial arts and it's not like you could just take a camera. I think people think he just took a camera, dressed up some of his friends and made this low budget movie, but it's a real fucking film with sets and everything else.
I've got an iPhone. I've got a mate who's got a blue belt in karate. And I've got the keys to my office world.
I love it, Gareth. We haven't heard enough about karate here in Hollywood.
Though a bit of judo as well. Throw it all in.
Throw it all in.
We'll mix it up a bit.
Have you met Steven Seagal? Close personal friend of mine. Well, he was before he started hanging out with Putin like a crazy man.
Why is he not being touted for the Raid remake? He'd get stuck in the corridors. He would. Also, his martial arts is something where people have to run at him rather than him actually taking the fight to anybody. Yeah, and it's like a SWAT team. They've got to be sleek and move around. You don't want to see that wandering through the halls.
It's just a couple of guys on like a project building in the Bronx or something, looking out the window. My God, Godzilla is coming down the road. Oh no, wait, it's just Steven Seagal. So yes, anyway, Merantau. Let's briefly talk about Merantau. In Minangkabau culture, every child must someday leave their home and face the many challenges in life. Challenges that will guide him towards becoming a man. Just because the community says something, it doesn't mean it has the right to say it. Come home, my son, when you are ready. In 2009, Asia's newest action hero, Uwais. Will introduce to the world a new breed of action. This is Silat. Merantau. So, what's the plot, and what did you think about it the first time you saw it?
The basic plot is Iko Uwais is a young lad, and he's going off for Merantau, which is it a bit like the Amish what's it called? You know, where they go off to the city and do their own thing for a bit.
It's basically you have to leave the farm and sort of make a name for yourself in the city.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's Jakarta.
Yeah. So he goes there and he meets some shady people, and he helps out a young girl and her brother escape the clutches of some shady...
pimps and gangsters and human traffickers and all that, right?
Yeah. It's a bit gritty.
It's got that the kickboxer dude who's like 8 foot tall, who's amazing. I wish he was in some other stuff.
It shows you what it's all about with Silat.
Yeah, because Silat is the name of the martial art that is practiced by Uwais.
Yes, and it kind of did for that what Tony Jaa did for Muay Thai with Ong Bak and the Protector.
Yeah, it's certainly... I mean, Merantau, although obviously it's not as expensive or even as expansive as the Protector, it has that vibe. It has guy from the country goes to the city, gets mixed up in stuff kind of vibe. Now, Iko is not trying to save an elephant, thank fuck. But, you know, that's basically what's going on, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really aware of it when it came out, but I mean, no doubt there was sort of saying, oh, he's the new Tony Jaa. When it came out, I'm sure. I will say this, as in martial arts terms, I think they're both brilliant.
Yeah.
Acting-wise, Iko Uwais nudges it.
Yeah, you think he's a better actor?
Well, I think he's got more on-screen character about him. Personally.
Okay. I think the interesting thing about Iko is he can always play... He's got a very, innocent, earnest face, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He always... It's very easy for him to play sympathetic characters.
He looks vulnerable.
It's not like Jet Li can look fucking mean. You know what I mean? Like, Jet Li can really look mean if he wants to and hard. Like, you know, him playing a villain in something is not too much of a stretch. It's a bit like what I was saying on the Ip Man episode of Nerd Lunch, where I was saying the difference between, like, Donnie Yen, who played the role, and then Tony Leung, who played the role. And although it's difficult to really assess acting ability in any great way because you don't understand the language, Donnie Yen just looks in the role so much more innocent and charming and, you know, when shit hits the fan, like wounded and angry. Whereas Tony Leung in The Grandmaster is more severe looking. He just has a very kind of dark, brooding, severe look to him.
Donnie Yen's great.
I mean, Iko's really got that. He's really got a nice, like, when he's fighting, like a really nice kind of innocent, panicked, yes, I can kick your ass, but please stop trying to kill me kind of face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he does look like somebody who wouldn't know how to kick your ass.
Yeah, completely.
He just looks like a, you know, young lad who's going off and he's sort of like, I'd like to teach some people how to do Silat, and you're looking at him thinking, you probably don't know any though, do you?
Yeah, I mean, he really does in Merantau certainly, and a little bit the Raid. He certainly does take you by surprise. In fact, there's a lot about these movies that are surprising. You know, it's surprising it's a Welsh director working in Indonesia, and it's surprising that he has such a language when it comes to putting martial arts on the screen. Simply by his own admission, growing up watching Jackie Chan, John Woo, things like that. Like, you know, he, like yourself, he lists things like The Killer and things like that as some of his favourite movies. John Woo ones.
That definitely comes into play later with The Raid.
Yeah.
But this one's, he's like he's like a young Jackie Chan film, young innocent lad goes off to big city, gets mixed up with the wrong people, and it's a really good little film.
He always has good villains as well, doesn't he? Right from the beginning, from this movie, Evans has some great villains. I mean, the is he German? The guy in Merantau, the long-legged one?
Laurent Busson is French.
Oh, is he French, is he?
I think so, yeah. French.
Because the way he does, for people who haven't seen it, there's one of the villains has I don't know whether it's kickboxing or martial arts, what it is, but he has a leg that's probably longer than my entire body. Like, it looks on screen like his leg is 7 foot long. And he can bring it down with like the weight of a breeze block. It's insane. You know what I mean? He could just lift it straight up in the air and bring it crashing down across someone. It's just incredible.
When I was watching it the first time, I sort of watched it, and he takes out all those people on top of the trailers, doesn't he?
The end fight.
Yeah.
Oh, the end fight is insanely good in Merantau.
Yeah. And he gets down and he sort of takes everybody out, gets down, and the two main bad guys are left. And I thought, well, he's just going to kick the shit out of them. Yeah. And the German-looking guy just starts throwing these kicks out at him.
Yeah.
And the other, you can see Uwais measure him up, thinking he sort of looks at one of them getting ready to fight, so he knows one of them's a kicker and the other one's more of a puncher.
Yeah.
And he sort of sizes them up, and this guy is just throwing kicks at him. Like you say, he sort of does this thing where he sort of lifts his leg up and sort of brings it down, and it'd crush anybody else.
Oh yeah, it's insane. I mean, it would be like a building falling on you. It's ridiculous, and it's it's a great little. You've seen it throughout martial arts movies, but it's a great kind of David and Goliath type thing, because obviously one is very big and has a lot of power. In his limbs, and then the other one, Eco, is like smaller and faster, and obviously has more sort of speedy variety of attacks. You know what I mean? And it's sort of the two different. When you hear Gareth Evans talk, he doesn't like to pair people off who have the same martial arts training. He likes to see two different martial arts, or in the case of a lot of fights in this and the Raid, 2 or 3 different martial arts all going at it. And he likes to see Sealat be as adaptable as it possibly can to take the other martial artists down. Because when you move on to the Raid and you have a Mad Dog, a character
who's also in Merantau.
He's also in Merantau, but he only came into Merantau at the last minute. He was always the choreographer with Eco and trained with Eco, but he doesn't do Silat. He does a form of judo, I think.
I think he does one type, because there's all different types of Silat, isn't there? I think he does one of them, and I think he does judo, but he is insanely quick. Not so much in this one.
Yeah.
After watching the Raid first and then watching Merantau, I thought, all right, the main fight's going to be against Mad Dog at the end of Merantau, but they have their to do in a lift.
Yeah.
Always like to do the fights, don't they, in sort of really confined spaces to show you how adaptable the fighting is.
Well, there's some great set pieces in Merantau. I mean, the nightclub set piece is fucking amazing. The scaffolding set piece is really great when they're fighting up and down that scaffolding, and the end fight scene is just incredible. And like you say, the bit in the lift is great.
Yeah, but I thought he'd be the sort of main bad guy that he has to fight, but he's not. It's sort of quick 2-minute fight, and but their fight at the end of the Raid. When we get onto the Raid, when we'll talk about it, he's just incredible, Yayan.
Yeah, Yayan's incredible. And when you watch the Raid, you kind of get hit with the full force of everything that's going on, and you can't quite believe your eyes that you've sort of never seen anything quite like this before. And although you've seen aspects of of this several times before. You've seen aspects of the setting, you've seen aspects of the martial arts, you've seen whatever. The way Gareth, the Raid is the Raid's biggest strength is the way he has clearly taken lots of elements from all over the place, quite openly as well, and combined them to create just this incredible. I think it's not quite 90 minutes, like 98 minutes or something, or 100 minutes worth of just insane action. And although when you watch Merantau, you understand that why it didn't make a massive splash, because it is fairly generic in terms of story and setting.
If it had came out before Wrong Back, you know, Uwais would be at the place where Tony Jaa is now, but it sort of followed on back, so people were sort of like, oh, we've probably seen it all before that, haven't we?
Yeah.
Trying to introduce a new martial arts film. Obviously, it did well enough for him to get The Raid made. Yes. And he's just created a classic film with The Raid.
Yeah, no, this is what I'm saying. But when I went back to Merantau, having already seen The Raid, I actually really liked it. Like I
Oh, it's I know it's not his first feature, but his first film, an Indonesian film, is brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I really rate it as a martial arts movie, Merantau. It happily for me sits alongside On Back or The Protector or, you know, any of those movies, quite happily so. I would urge anyone listening to this to, if they haven't checked it out, and it's unfortunate because it's gone off Netflix now in America, but if you haven't checked it out, do check it out, because it is worth watching. There is a Blu-ray of Merantau from 2009 for $13 on Amazon. It's available to rent on Amazon for $2.99, and there is a DVD version of it for $5 on Amazon.
It's one of those films you could go and watch The Raid, and then you could probably see that and think, same actor, same director, and you'd probably think, it might not be as good though, because you sort of because The Raid's so amazing. I was thinking, am I going to watch this, and it's just going to be nowhere near as good. But it's not as good, but
it's different, isn't it? It's completely different.
It's very different. You know, it's more of an action drama.
You could almost imagine the character in The Raid
becoming that.
No, well, the character in Merantau, after he has that adventure, joining the police force or the SWAT team or whatever, and then going on to be in The Raid. It could almost be a prequel.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, they're different. They're called different things, but it could. You know, the whole point of Rama, the character he plays in The Raid, is that he's meant to be this kind of...
And he's got the same brother.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But he's meant to be this, like, young, wet behind the ears, you know, nobody expects anything from him type guy in The Raid. So there's no reason to believe that he couldn't be the same.
In fact, yeah, you could just go and say, oh, it's the prequel.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really could be the prequel. And it's certainly, I think, Gareth Evans' training ground. I think that goes without saying in terms of staging fights, working obviously with...
I think it was, you know, to see how good a team they were, how good he was going to be, and obviously it paid off. And, you know, you look and you sort of see it. If I'd have watched Merantau without seeing The Raid and just sort of stuck it on and thought to myself, it's quite good that is, I'll go and have a look and see what the Indonesian director's done. But he's from Wales.
Yeah, he's from Wales. He's a good Welsh lad. Good British director. It's insane that The Raid Redemption, and I'm sure I've said this before, only gets 7.6 on IMDb. Because, I'm sorry, I would rather watch The Raid Redemption over and over till the end of time than ever sit through Citizen Kane again. What's interesting about The Raid is that, although it came out in 2011, it's really going to be maybe the tail end of this year and you could maybe argue with something like Captain America or whatever, that we're slowly seeing American movies change and become more action-orientated and more kinetic and more frantic and more violent in a way. It's subtle with something like Captain America 2 or, but I'm sure when we see X3, I'm sure we're going to notice the influence.
Yeah, I think so. Especially after, the reviews that the Raid 2's getting. I know it's probably not done as well at the box office, but I think people are ready for this sort of...
It's getting great critical reviews. It's getting
amazing critical
It's not
reviews.
Getting as great fanboy reviews, because I think a lot of fanboys are finding the longer running time and the pacing of the Raid 2 a problem.
I thought that when I first saw it.
Yeah.
I thought that when I first saw it, but going back in a second time, knowing what I was expecting, I enjoyed it far more on a second viewing. I sort of looked at it though and thought to myself, if only they've I know it's supposed to be a trilogy, if the second one was like a prison breakout film and the third film is him going undercover and sort of make a trilogy and progress that way.
Yeah.
He's not. He's made 2 the way he wanted to make it. Fair play to him.
Well, I think the way 2 ends is... I certainly understand where they're going to go with part 3. Like, the Raid 2 doesn't end and I go, oh, well, what are they going to do in part 3?
Well, I reckon he's announced that Raid 3 is going to be a prequel.
Really?
Yeah, apparently. 5 days ago he's put that.
Oh, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because I really want to see what happens...
Yeah, I'd like to see what happens
after the Raid 2, because
it looks like there's more story to tell.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's left really up in the air. We don't see him... Well, we'll get on to the Raid 2 in a minute. Let's leave that to the end of the show so that people who haven't seen it can listen to the rest of this episode without spoiling the end of Raid 2. We'll spoil the end of Raid 2 at the end of the episode. Elite cops. 1 ruthless crime lord. 30 floors of chaos. Good morning, everyone. We have some guests trawling the halls today. Now go to work and please enjoy yourself. From the company that brought you Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon and Kung Fu Hustle. Best action movie in decades, raves Ryland Aldridge from Twitch Film. Action movies don't get much more exciting or inventive, praises David Rooney from The Hollywood Reporter. Spectacular, incredible, exhilarating, Robert Curler, Variety. The Raid, Redemption.
Now we are actually getting back to proper action films. I think The Raid is one of the reasons why. I think people are... Certainly when I went to see it, the first time I went to see The Raid at the cinema, I went to a special preview and it was sold out.
Yeah.
Through good word of mouth. So, a couple of people left after, when the van gets shot to shit.
Yeah.
A couple in the 60s got up and walked out.
I thought this was a costume drama.
I thought the raid was about the raid in 1942.
I thought it was going to be a family film. I thought it was about squirrels. Sorry.
That's what I thought they were watching Watership Down to. Yeah. And, you know, it doesn't hold back on the action. It's great that we're getting back to that, an 18-rated action film. Tense action as well. Some of the set pieces in the Raid 1 really crank up the tension, especially, you know, when Rama's behind the wall.
Oh, that's an incredible scene. Yeah, with the guy who had his ear blown off, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's just not action. That's sort of Gareth Evans bringing everything into the film. You know, the film started off like, you know, you're thinking, oh, it's Die Hard then in a building, which to a certain degree it is. Then the guns come out. You're thinking, oh, it's hard-boiled. You know, with like John Woo, frantic gunfights. And then obviously when the bullets run out, it's Iko Uwais, you know, doing his martial arts. The film looks great, and that, like I say, when I say about the tension that Gareth Evans cranks up, when he's behind the wall, it's just, you're absolutely shitting yourself. It's filmed really well, you know, where you can sort of see over the top, and you see him sticking the knife through. You know, I sat there watching it thinking, oh shit, how's he going to get out of this? And when the knife actually comes through and his sort of head goes with the knife, and you can see, you know, it always shows in his face how painful that must have been.
Yeah. And
he doesn't scream out, and he sort of puts his hand on the blade to get the blood off when he pulls the knife back through. It's a great scene. And those cuts and everything, other than like a comic book movie, everything that happens to him is there later in the movie. That's cut on his face is even there in number 2.
Yeah.
You know, the scar, I mean, it looks so painful what happens to him. It's unreal. And as soon as that scene's over, all of a sudden the film doesn't let up anyway. But once he's out of that room and he fights the machete gang, it just doesn't stop. Everything is frantic, going at, you know, 100 miles an hour. It's so good. And the tight spaces as well. Iko Uwais, you know, makes use of every little thing that he can do. You know, when he sort of pulls that bloke's head down onto the broken door. It's just an amazing film.
It's also got like a sort of like an old Bruce Lee vibe as well, like the whole idea of having to sort of work your way up the building to the big boss kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, people say it's like a video game come to life. I'm sure, you know, you have to work your way up to the main boss, which, yeah, I can see it. But
yeah, if video games were anywhere near this good.
Yeah, but they're not.
I mean, the thing is, he goes in as a SWAT team, and what's incredible is, and what's brutal, is how in like the first 15 minutes, just how quickly that SWAT team is completely and utterly destroyed. And just when you think, oh, there's going to be a group of 4 or 5 of them left, one of them will wander over to a window and get a bullet through the face, you know what I mean? Or, you know, we'll get blown up, or we'll get stabbed by a machete or attacked by 5 guys or whatever. You know, people are dropping left, right and centre on both sides in the first 20 minutes of this movie like no other film.
Yeah, I mean, the team go in expecting it to be pretty easy. I know people have tried to get in there before, but they don't realise how well prepared they are. Because there's all different types of gangs in this tenement building, plus innocent people who are just sort of having to live there because they've got nowhere else to live. And you've got like the machete gangs, you've got the
sniper guys.
Yeah, the sniper guys who are not living in that building, but it sort of tells you how big the gang problem is.
Yeah.
There.
And the funny thing is the building is a total artificial construct. It's a CGI building on the outside, and everything inside is sets.
Mm.
So it's incredible the way it feels real. In terms of it feels like they filmed it in a real building. When I first watched this movie, I was like, I don't know how they did this. Like, I don't know how, because I thought it was filmed in a real building. I don't know how they took a guy's head and smashed it into a light, then smashed it into tiles and made it look like the tiles were all breaking and stuff like that, or how these people were seemingly throwing themselves with, gleeful abandon into filing cabinets and, onto hard surfaces and, that whole sequence in the drug lab, in the meth lab, is insane. Like how they did that and how much physical injury it looks like there is going on,
Oh yeah. I mean, the stunts are real. There's no CGI, I don't think, with a lot of the stunts. I mean,
there's one scene, the scene where he flies out and lands with his back on the... It's not a stairwell, is it? The balcony well.
The balcony, yeah.
That is done... So they filmed him landing once, they filmed him landing twice, they filmed him landing a third time, and then they put it all together. That's a composite shot.
Right, yeah.
But the first time he went to do it for real, the guys because he's on a wire, the guys who were like holding the wire yanked it too hard, and apparently he smacked his head into the wall, and then when the impact made them let go of the rope, instead of landing on the crash mats that they had below, because that balcony sequence, they only built 2 floors of that. The rest is all CGI. Right. So they had crash mats right there. He apparently, because he came down at a trajectory, completely missed the crash mats. So the guy who did that smacked his head into a wall and then landed on concrete.
Oh.
And apparently did that stuntman thing of getting up and going, I'll do it again right away. And Gareth went, no, you won't. Because they obviously had like paramedics and stuff on set all the time. And they had him off to hospital for 3 days to have him completely checked out. It was his neck and head and everything. And then they had him back to set 4 days later. And then he did it again. But he would have done it again right there and then, apparently, that guy. Fucking nutter.
It's a different work ethic, isn't it? I'm sure.
But no, I love The Raid. I think The Raid's incredible, and it was certainly an eye opener for me. If there is a martial arts style of movie that I like, this is it. This is it. The Protector is it. Ninja is it. The first Transporter movie is it. District B13 is it? Like that's what if I'm looking at a movie that is going to be purely like martial arts action as opposed to like a Lethal Weapon or whatever, then this is it. This is my kind of film.
Yeah. It's certainly the one that I've gone back to a few times to watch, and I'll just continue watching it. There's great parts there, and obviously, like I said before, I watched this before Merantau, and Jacker, Joe Taslim, gets cornered in the room with Mad Dog.
Yes.
I've never seen Mad Dog before, and obviously he looks like one of those blokes who's just small. He's got a bit of a mouth on him, so you're always a bit wary of him.
He's got a proper Al Leong look about him, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's the 21st century Al Leong.
Yes.
And I was thinking, well, this should be an easy fight for Jacker, because he doesn't look much, Mad Dog. Mad Dog is amazing.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like anything. And yet again, Merantau is good in that. In this, he is amazing.
The fight at the end of this is honestly, until The Raid 2, one of the most brutal 12 minutes I've ever spent in a cinema. Like, I can watch stuff at home, but I don't tend to go and watch, like, horror movies or extreme movies or extreme violent movies in cinemas, because there's part of me that still wants to know I can turn it off. You know what I mean? Like, and my stomach is certainly stronger than it ever has been. And my taste in movies is certainly more stronger than it ever was when I was a teenager, or indeed even just a few years ago. But yeah, the fight at the end of this movie. I mean, at a certain point, it becomes comical, because all three of them would be dead, like 10 times over, or at least severely injured. Oh yeah,
especially his brother Andy.
Yeah,
he'd be fucked. But it has the Raid 2 more than the Raid 1 is a film that certainly I was sort of sitting in the cinema the other night, not so much the second time, but sort of makes you sort of go, ooh, you know, with some of the things they're doing. It, I think in the Raid 1, when I saw it in the cinema, when they kill Mad Dog and he sticks the tube in his throat, and he sort of squelches it around.
Yeah,
that's sort of when your eyes are sort of, ooh, because I think it's the sound effects as well that he uses.
Yeah,
it really it's so violent.
Well, Evans is clearly a horror and violence geek. Like, he clearly likes, you know, and it's interesting because everyone is funnily talking about how hardcore the Raid 2 is. That's a lot of comments I've seen. But rewatching the Raid again, I mean, there are multiple violent stabbings in that first sequence where he's attacked by the machete gang that are really graphic. Like, the camera doesn't pull away. In the Raid, the camera does pull away quite a bit to a lot of the more extreme stuff. But there's still bits where you see someone, like, violently stabbed in the chest, right up close, right at the front of the scene. Like, there's no cutaways, there's no, you know, and it's not like, I don't know, a horror movie where they stab him once maybe kind of go, like that. It's like, bang, 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 bang. Like, it's really, you know, they're punching them, but with a knife.
It's Silat does, apparently, it does involve a lot of blades.
Yeah.
Specialising in blade play, I suppose they call it. But, I mean, the subtitles should just read stabby, 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 stabby.
I mean, there's one bit during that fight that he has with the machete gang, and you see this more in the Raid 2 with the girl with the claw hammer.
Yeah.
But in the Raid 1, where he stabs the top of the leg and then brings the knife all the way down the leg.
Yeah.
And it's so frantic that it doesn't quite have the impact, but it's still like, Jesus Christ, if you thought about that in reality for more than a second, it's disgusting. The idea of someone splitting your leg down the middle with a knife.
What's amazing is, in another film, in like another action film where it's not as frantic, that'd be like the highlight where you go, did you see what he did?
Yeah.
He stuck the knife in and he dragged it all the way down. How disgusting is that? In the Raid 2, that's just like, it's just a little bit.
It's just one move, isn't it? Out of like a million moves.
Yeah.
It's insane. Now, the Raid 2, you know, I've described it as Grindhouse meets Art House because it does get more... It is a gorier film. It is
it's a lot gorier.
It is more horrific in terms of its violence and bloodletting. Whereas the Raid, the first one, is more of a martial arts movie in which there is obviously, you know, bullet shots, knife cuts.
It's typical action, blood and violence of, you know, the R-rated action.
Yeah.
After, you know, a few years, like Shoot 'em Up, and you sort of, you know, that sort of film that's coming out as R, Crank, it's what you're used to now from an R-rated film.
I mean, it's still extreme. I still watch...
it's definitely extreme.
Yeah, I still watch The Raid thinking to myself, this is probably the most extreme like action violence I'd seen, because a lot of the action that you watch, the Transporter is a prime example, or even the ninja movies is a prime example. It's more, weird enough, it's more like a comic book. You know what I mean? People are being battered around for ages, but no one's really getting hurt. You know what I mean? It's everyone's sort of bouncing off each other, and there's a lot of skill to it. It's fantastic, but there's not a huge amount of bloodletting.
Yeah, it's a spectacle.
And the Raid has elements of that. There are certain sequences where they fight, and the fight goes on way longer than it would in reality, and people are bouncing off furniture and bouncing off things and getting back up and all the rest of it. But then there are also moments with, you know, throat slits and leg cuts and chest stabs and, you know, face breaking and all the rest of it, even before you get to the Mad Dog fight, that are really wince-inducing.
Yeah.
And that is only continued on in the Raid 2. In fact, there is less action in the Raid 2, but what there is more of are those scenes where you're like, ooh, bloody hell, you know what I mean?
The scene that made me squint with pain is where they're having the car chase, and he kicks his leg through the window and he puts his leg on it, and... Yeah,
along the glass?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's also, you know, the guy who's hanging out of the car. But that's, you know, he's hanging down by the tyres. That's pretty scary. There's the bit in the prison yard fight where the guy gets his face just, before it all kicks off in the mud, where the guy's face just plants the concrete.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's insane. There's a bit at the end of the Raid 2 where once he's burst into the warehouse, he kicks a guy.
Oh, yeah.
The guy's head bangs onto the back of a metal shelving unit and then falls down, and his body snaps against some concrete before falling off another step. It's like a bang, bang, and then he falls down. It's really, Yeah,
you just know that in his head, after his head smacked that metal thing, he thought to himself, my day can't get any worse. And then his chest hit concrete and he fell down again. Yeah,
I mean,
stunt, man.
But the Raid's incredible. I mean, let's, give me a few more scenes or whatever, anything that you wanted to talk about more in the Raid, and then we can move on to the second one.
The Raid, favourite bits. I think it's the drug lab is just brilliant. The machete fight's brilliant. The fact that you find out the story is they've gone in with nobody knowing that they're there. They're actually working for a dirty cop.
Yeah.
To basically... I think what they're there to do is there to assassinate I think they all think that he's the main crime boss, when what you find out is he's just a small little piece in the big jigsaw puzzle that's going to be expanded in part 2.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, according to part 2, he's like nothing.
No,
really.
He's just a guy with a really great voice.
He's basically become this entrepreneur who is... Yeah, he's basically a malevolent landlord. In other words, because there's a bit where Andy...
He's an evil Rigsby.
Yeah. Explain that quickly to people who don't know what that is.
Rising Damp,
from Rising
an old
Damp.
British sitcom.
No. Yeah. From...
Naked. He was a landlord.
He was
in a tenement.
Yeah.
In London.
But no, because you find out Andy, Rama's brother, who works for him. Yeah, he says when the shit kicks off, he says, yeah, that's right, let's kill all these people. They're paying rent. They're like that. Like, he's the brains of the operation. He's basically saying, look, you're stupid to engage with them because you're killing off all your tenants, and that's basically how you're making your money. Like, you might be a bit of a crime boss and you see him shoot some guys at the beginning, and, I'm sure if people owe him money or whatever, he's an asshole. And I'm sure he raises the rents and blah, 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 blah. But basically, he has this self-contained building where he is charging people to stay, and whether you're an innocent who can't afford to go anywhere else, or whether you're a drug dealer or a rapist or whatever, you can stay there, but you have to pay the big boss. and he's the big boss, but just of that building. And then what you find out in part 2 is he's then paying, the Indonesian crime boss in part 2. He's then paying his cut to him. So,
yeah, he's nothing. Yeah, you find out that Iko Uwais' brother is one of the right hand man to the gang boss, and that's why he's gone in there. He's sort of gone in there to try and get his brother out, really, and see sense and see the error of his ways.
Yes. But no, so that's the other thing, is that in very brief and well done scenes, the raid establishes a world, it establishes a plot, it establishes characters. There's a lot leveled at it where it's just like, well, it's just 90 minutes of violence, and all this sort of stuff. Well, hallelujah. Excellent, at last. But actually, although it is expressed in fighting, and to use a sort of the kind of thing that Mark Kermode would say, but, much like an opera would do it in song, I feel like the characters and the plot and all the rest of it is always moving forward. I never feel a lack of story being told. Do you know what I mean? I don't look at it and go, well, of course there's no story, but oh my God, what a kick-ass fight. I look at it like Rama is definitely a character. I definitely associate with him, and stuff is happening as they're going through the building. It's not just, like you say, there is tension there that is not just based on fights. It's based on, and allegiances he makes at the beginning of the movie help him out halfway through when, the machete gang are after him. His brother's involved. There's a big boss. They're working up towards the thing. The crooked cop. There's stuff going on. It's not just.
No, you want Rama to get out there. At the start you see him with his pregnant wife, so you know that this guy's got a lot to lose.
And what I didn't understand, and it's never really indicated in the Raid or the Raid 2, but he's in both movies. Is that his dad, do you think, or her dad that he lives with? The old gentleman who's always looking at him disapprovingly.
I think he's a ghost.
But he's holding the baby in the second one. How can he be a ghost?
I have no idea who he is. I think it's his dad, because I think didn't he say to him, I'll get him out? I'm going to go in and get him out.
I'll bring him back, I think he says.
Yeah, I'll bring him back. And he's like, who?
He's like, I'm a ghost.
I'm just your butler. Okay.
He's got a real, proper old face, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's a perfect film.
I think it's an absolutely perfect film. Like I say, I keep going back to it, so it's high up on my list of great films. One of the best, and one film that I think Hollywood's going to be sort of trying to outdo, but probably won't succeed.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see sort of what the future, because moving on to the Raid 2 now.
Yep.
My name is Rama. I know who you are. My brother says you're someone I can trust. He's right. You made a new enemy today. Reza and his men will come looking for you. They'll do everything to track you down. If we don't act fast, you'll be gone in a week. Your family, too. The city is run by two families, local kingpin Bangan and the Goto family from Japan. Uko, Bangan's only child, he's serving time in prison. It's the perfect opportunity. Get in, get close. I want you on my team. Go undercover. You'll be retrained, given the skills to do what we need when we need it, for the good of the city. Meaning? I have to arrest you. I've seen it twice. You've seen it twice. As much as we both love it, I think it's certainly a more problematic movie in terms of quality and in terms of pacing and in terms of a lot of things that I think while we still love it and we still embrace it and we still enjoy it, I understand more why some people wouldn't. Like, I don't understand why someone would watch The Raid Redemption and not like it. But I can understand why someone could watch The Raid 2 and not like it.
Yes.
Certainly coming after The Raid, it's really, really, really brave.
It's a different sort of film.
It's completely different. It's completely different. It's...
Well, it goes to show it wasn't originally written as The Raid 2, was it?
No, it was written just as another crime movie after Merantau.
It was supposed to be Merantau. And you can understand that they gave him a budget to make The Raid 2, so he rewrote it a little bit to make sure it got made and brought Rama into it and continued the story.
But it's far more like... I mean, I don't know what The Raid 2 is like. I mean, like I said, I've described it as Kubrick meets Tony Scott or Art House meets Grindhouse. I mean, it's really... Watching it the second time, I realized just how little action there is for almost an hour and 15 minutes. There's really only the sort of big prison set piece, really.
There's the mud fight. There's the porn set fight.
Right, yes. Which isn't very long.
No, it's not long. They're all good fight scenes.
They're all good, but it isn't till... It isn't till they come after... Because there's a bit in it where... Because basically, very quickly, there's two rival gangs. The Indonesians and the Japanese. And... they each own like half of the city, let's say, or half of the territories or whatever. And there's basically peace between them. The Indonesian gang collects from there, like collects protection money and a cut.
Everything's very peaceful between them.
Yeah, from their territories, and the Japanese gang collects protection racket and monies and takings from their area of the city. And then there is a sort of an upcoming gangster who sort of reckons himself as something of a future player called Beho, right?
Yeah, he's got a walking stick and leather gloves. So
he's a proper Bond villain, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I mean, is like the Raid 2 is kind of shot like a Kubrick movie, but has real like Bond villain and manga and...
like David Lynch, when they're in his club and he's sort of sitting there with his walking stick and he's like in front of red curtains.
Yeah.
I was expecting a little midget to come out and go... Doesn't.
And where is he meant to be from? Because is he meant to be from the Middle East, or is he meant to be from, where's he meant to be from?
I don't know. He looks sort of like half Indonesian, part European.
I think he's meant to be Arabian or something. Beho, who is slowly trying to kind of...
He's trying to get it all for himself.
Yeah, get it all for himself, but he's doing it in sort of slow, bit-by-bit manipulations, really, because obviously he's, like, physically crippled. And he has these two assassins, which are really hilarious, because we were talking about, while we were watching the movie, Mark and I, Mark McDonald from Schlock Treatment, we're talking about either of these assassins could easily be outdone with a shotgun, really. Because one walks very, very slowly carrying a baseball bat and could be seen from miles away. And the other one is a blind woman. Oh, well, she's kind of blind, deaf. No, half blind, all deaf.
I don't know. She's got a gammy eye. I know that.
She's got a gammy eye, but she's clearly deaf because he talks to her with sign language.
Which she can only see through one eye.
Yeah.
She's not lucky.
No.
Let's put it like that.
But that's really because she's not an Indonesian speaker, so that's why they made her deaf and mute. She's, I forget where she's from. Is she French?
Possibly.
Yeah, Julie Estelle. I've got a feeling she's French. And she wields 2 claw hammers. So he has these kind of, like I say, anime-style, manga-style, grindhouse-style assassins. Plus he has his own equivalent of a mad dog, doesn't he? That third guy. Who,
he's just basically called Assassin, isn't he?
Yeah. And then what is happening with Rama is that his brother, it's not spoiling anything really because it happens in literally the first scene, his brother dies at the beginning. And he is approached by, because this follows on exactly after the raid finishes. He is approached by a guy who runs a special task force whose job it is to wheedle out corruption in the police force. And they know that there is a big police boss called Reza, is it?
Reza, yeah.
Who is in cahoots initially with the Indonesian gang, but then eventually with Bayo.
Yeah, he's kind of the one who's keeping the peace for a bit.
But he's taking massive amounts of money, isn't he?
Yeah.
To do so. And this special task force against corruption wants to get him. And the way that they want to get him is they want to put Rama undercover with the Indonesian gang. And to do that, he has to beat up the son of a senator who is threatening the Indonesian gang, which puts him in prison with the son of the Indonesian gang, and is meant to put him in prison just for a few months, and ends up putting him in prison for 2 years, which, considering he has a young son at home, is really already devastating.
Yeah.
Not to mention everything that has to happen to him in prison. So,
yeah, and once he gets out of prison, it's not as though he can go back to his son. He has to keep up the ruse and stay undercover to worm his way into the gang.
And
he saved his Indonesian crime lord's boss in prison, so he's already...
He saved his son, the boss's son, yeah. And who's another, like, great Gareth Evans villain. They all are. The Japanese guy is great. The Indonesian guy is great. The guy who, like, clearly never opens his eyes. The Indonesian guy is always, like, very thoughtful. And he's sort of like the Godfather. He sort of sat there sort of saying, it's better not to fight. And you have to pick and choose the battles you wage because... if you go after every little petty misdemeanor done against you, then you're going to be forever fighting, and there is a certain point where the wise man stops. And that doesn't mean he's not a hard, fucking ruthless bastard who's going around collecting lots of money from smut peddlers and drug peddlers, but he's left his rage behind. He's left his youthful anger behind and become a more sort of Zen leader.
Yeah, he goes to... he's got his own little assassin that he clears up stuff for him. Mad Dog again. Obviously he's playing a different assassin. But he's got him who does all his little dirty work for him. If he needs somebody taken out, he's the guy who does it.
Yeah, and the guy who plays the Indonesian boss is called Tio Pakusadewa, is it? Pakusadewa?
Yes.
He's amazing. I really liked him in this movie. But basically, to set it up, the Raid 2 has probably more plot in its first 10 minutes than the Raid and Merantau combined, to be fair.
Yeah.
That's not to say there isn't plot and depth in the Raid and Merantau. It's just that the Raid 2 is dense with plot. And the thing that came through the second time I watched it was the idea that none of the characters in the Raid 2 are after the same thing. They're all after something else. The leader of the crime unit against corruption just wants to get Reza. The son of the Indonesian boss just wants his dad's position and just wants the power. The Indonesian boss just wants a fucking easy life.
He's happy with what's happening.
Yeah, he's happy with it. Of course he is. He's like a multi-millionaire raking in thousands of dollars every day from, drug peddlers and smut peddlers around the city. Like, why rock that boat?
Yeah.
Same on the Japanese side. Bayo wants it all for himself and is manipulating everybody. He's manipulating Reza. He's manipulating the Indonesian crime boss's son. And everything. There's a sort of, Rama is just really out for revenge for his brother.
He just wants a fucking break.
Well, he wants it all to end, but at the same time...
He wants revenge for his brother, and he wants his wife and kid back. He's very much like Yayan, who plays the assassin. He just wants his family.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is Yayan, who plays the assassin, or Mad Dog Mark II in this. What's his actual name in this?
It's
Fracasso? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. He, is living rough and looks a bit like a hobo and stuff, but has this really attractive ex-wife, which is ridiculous, really, and just wants to be able to see his son, but obviously his ex-wife detests what he does for a living.
I love him in this. I think he's got a really good character.
Well, it's a tragic part, isn't it?
It's so tragic.
It's really tragic.
He's like one of the most well-respected, especially by the big boss, but the Indonesian boss. You can tell that they're friends. And he's sort of, I'm not a smart man. I've done all this for you, that he says to the wife. And she says, you're no different to any other man who's just got a job and just looks after his family. And you can see this sort of tragedy in it, and he plays it really well.
Well, that's what he says to her, isn't it? And she says, "Does other men come home with blood on their hands?"
Yeah. It's it leaves you wanting to. You want to know more about the characters.
But she's clearly taking money off him, though.
Yeah, I was thinking, well, if you're that fucking worried about it, put the envelope down with a fucking stash of cash in there.
Yeah. Now the son played
she's well dressed.
Oh, she's very well dressed. They eat in a nice restaurant, which he pays for. But the son is played by Arifin Putra. Uko is the son, and he's great. He's really good in this movie.
Yeah, he even speaks in English in one part, and you can tell with him speaking in Indonesian, even with you reading subtitles, he's great.
Yeah,
that bit where they're doing the karaoke singing.
Oh, the acting rather in the Raid 2 is fantastic. It really is fantastic. But anyone going into the Raid 2, if people haven't seen it, going into the Raid 2 expecting the Raid again, I've said all along, both in my written review and in the times I've vocalised on the various shows I've been on, it is nothing like the Raid at all. It's a completely different type of movie. I mean, people have made comparisons with Infernal Affairs and stuff, and it's not entirely fair because, okay, yes, a policeman goes undercover with a crime family. That's it. There isn't an alternative. There isn't there is corruption in the police force, so I imagine there probably are undercover people who are whatever, but we don't follow his story either. It's all about Rama's story, but Rama almost disappears from the movie for a while, and it becomes in the middle, it becomes about Uko and his father, because Uko is champing at the bit. He has a real young man's lust for power and respect.
They keep saying about he's got fire in his stomach, that his father knows. I think his father's well aware that at some point this was going to happen. Well,
the father, I don't think, wants to give away the business to him at all. No, he would rather give it to his right-hand man, Eka, played by Oka Antara.
Yeah, because he knows that he's not...
Well, he's not set out for it. It's
he's not got that mentality of keep the peace. Uko is somebody who wants, give him a, you've got 2 wishes. What's your first wish? I wish for another 5 wishes.
Yeah,
he always wants something more.
It feels to me like he's Macbeth, and Beho's character is almost like Lady Macbeth. Beho's I will give you everything you need. You just have to like do all this stuff. And the funny thing about it is that might all be a lie and a manipulation as well. I mean, I don't want to spoil the ending, but okay, I've just spoiled the ending. So fuck it. If you haven't seen The Raid 2, please switch off now. But basically, it is revealed at the end that even Bayo's been playing him. Because Bayo does this big, what is supposed to be this big thing for him, and lines up 5 guys that he claims are the people who gave him shit in prison.
Tried to kill him.
And gives Uko the chance to kill them, which he does. But then we find out at the end they weren't guys from the prison at all. They were basically Bayo's own men who martyred themselves to further Bayo's cause.
Yeah.
Which is insane when you think about it.
Yeah, but Bayo's evil.
But because they die a horrible death. Each one of them get their throat slit.
Yeah.
And the 5th one, he like sticks the knife right into his neck and turns it around, and proper horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, not good.
But yeah, the pacing is kind of off. Now, people who are looking for the Raid style action and violence, you get it. Don't worry, you get it. The last 20 minutes of this movie is like another mini Raid movie.
Yes. Yes.
Because you have the car chase, which then...
before that, you have the fight in the like the fast food restaurant, and that guy gets his face put onto the
Death by Hibachi grill.
Oh.
Where he literally melts a guy's face off.
Yes.
Or half of a guy's face off against the Hibachi grill. But that's not a very long fight.
No, it's not. It's not until Rama you find out what's happening.
Because what happens is in order to get the Japanese and the Indonesians against each other, is Bayo starts a turf war based on lies. And he attempts to start a turf war by killing Yayan's character, Prakoso, who's kind of... I mean, the son even says he's like an uncle to me and a brother to my father.
Yeah.
Who's the assassin guy. And he dies in a really horrible way after being set upon by thousands of people in a nightclub.
That's a good fight. It has one of my favourite fight bits in it, where that guy's sort of lying on the floor and and just sort of does about 50 punches in 10 seconds on his face.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work because the dad basically says, look, yes, he's been my friend for a long time, but he's one man. Are we really going to go killing thousands of people?
Yeah, we're going to go on. We're going to start a war because of one man. And I think he knows it's not the Jap. I think he knows that something's going on.
Well, yes, because when he has the meeting with the Japanese where they're discussing what's going to happen, he says, I think people in my organisation have taken it upon themselves to work outside the fold, and I'll deal with it. And then he beats his son up. Thank fuck. But it's all to no avail, because basically when that doesn't work, when that manipulation doesn't work and Bayo can't get the two gangs to fight each other, he just says fuck it, sets it in motion anyway, and sends his gang off after everybody else, masquerading as either side.
Yeah.
So you suddenly get these assassin groups going out and attacking, and you see the clawhammer lady goes after one bagman from the Japanese side, and the baseball bat guy goes after another bagman, and then the Mad Dog character in this one goes after the assassin guy, goes after someone else, and then they finally, a group of them, some corrupt cops, finally try to take down Rama.
Yeah.
And that's when Rama's like, whoa, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, because he's obviously killed a policeman.
And
or burnt his face off, at least.
And all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, I mean, the guy with the baseball bat is like a horror film. So, you know, when he sort of like hits him with the ball and sort of goes, can I have my ball back, please?
Yeah. It's a grindhouse anime, you know, Kill Bill type character.
Yeah. Like it's Takeshi Miike
right, yeah.
sort of weirdness going on. But
it sort of builds it up well, and like you say, the last 20 minutes is just non-stop.
I mean, I still like it, but I've heard a lot of negativity about the second one.
On watching it again, I loved it even more. I
can't say I loved it even more the second time.
Yeah, no,
but it didn't drop off for me. I mean, there was some scenes of shaky cam which were slightly bothering. Because what's interesting about it is that Gareth Evans clearly knows how to do big, long, slow, widescreen shots, clearly knows how to use a dolly, clearly knows how to use a tripod, clearly... Like, this movie is awash with scenes where he is trying different camera techniques. It's not all handheld. But there are a couple of scenes where it's handheld, where you're like, I wish that wasn't handheld.
Yeah.
The scene in the karaoke thing, although it's trying to heighten the tension, it's trying to heighten the violence of the scene, it does wobble about too much. It would be much better if that was done in more menacing kind of close-up. Because whenever Bayo's on screen, it's all menacing, slow dolly shots amidst this amazing red ballroom. I mean, it looks like The Shining. It looks like Kubrick.
Yeah, it looks very... Yeah, they really play up the fact that this guy's like a megalomaniac. Another bit I like is when Rama gets out of prison and he's sort of on the phone to his boss, and then he rings his wife and he puts his finger in his ear and everything. You know, you've got this really melodramatic music. I like the score in the second one. He sort of puts his finger in his ear and everything is quiet so he can hear his kid playing. You don't actually see the kid playing, which is even better. Yeah. Because we're not actually seeing what's going on. And he's sort of thinking, God, I hope he gets out of this. So he can actually go back and have a life. You don't see the old boy either, though, do you? You think he's dead?
Probably not. He's probably sat in the corner with the kid looking disapproving. She probably hangs up and the old guy goes, "Was that him again? Fucking new guy, never around. Stuff with the police, always killing people, making the place safer for everybody. I don't like him." That's probably what he's saying.
You don't like him? I prefer me as a Sir Andy.
I prefer if he just worked in stationery or something, or sold shoes. Why can't he just sell shoes? No, the interesting thing, and I think the thing that a lot of critics of The Raid 2 are ignoring, is that as a director, more than anything, The Raid 2 is Gareth Evans' film. More than it being Iko Uwais' film, I think that's The Raid. I think The Raid is where these great practitioners of CLAC got to show off what they could do.
It's a showcase, yeah.
I think that The Raid 2 is Gareth Evans' movie. I think he's like, okay, I've got certain things I can do with my camera and my storytelling licked. I've got it.
Yeah.
But I want to expand yet again. And I don't think, therefore, The Raid 2 is a perfect film. I think The Raid 2 is a patchy and problematic film at times. But I give it massive benefit of the doubt because it is a filmmaker expanding, spreading his wings, doing interesting stuff. But it's a dangerous move because after The Raid, he probably could have written his own ticket. And it'll be interesting to see what he does next in terms of Hollywood and everything else. And I know he's got 2 or 3 things on the back burner, both in Indonesia and in Hollywood. And I'm sure that if Hollywood said, sorry, fuck off, he could raise another 3 million in Indonesia and go on making these movies for as long as he needed to.
Yeah, he's Indonesian's golden Welsh boy.
Right. But it's dangerous in Hollywood to try and attempt something different or use someone's dime to experiment and become a better artist. But I do think that's what The Raid 2 is doing. I think it's about Evans becoming a better director and a better artist.
I agree with you on that. I think that's exactly what he's doing. And I think as well he's edging his bet saying, I'm going to make a film in America, then Indonesia and back and forth. He's seen what's happened to the likes of like John Woo. You make classic films in another country, you go to Hollywood and you have to you have to go by their rules.
Yeah.
So build up a bit more cred in Indonesia. Don't go too huge when you first get to America. And it's shocking to say, but I don't think we've seen... I love The Raid, and I love The Raid 2. I don't think we've seen Gareth Evans' best film yet.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
I think it's coming. We're definitely going to see it. But the fact that it's going to be better than these two, and hopefully, I think it will be action orientated, excites me no end.
Well, he's still insanely young. I mean, sickeningly young, really. He's in his 30s, right?
Yeah, I mean, and he shoots action films better than some people who have been in the business 30 years.
Yeah.
You know, people say about...
Wow, is he really 6 feet 7 inches tall?
Yeah, I know he's pretty tall.
Jesus Christ. Sorry, carry on. What were you saying? I was just looking up his bio, sorry.
Yeah. Fucking hell, yeah, he's tall, isn't he? So I just don't think he's made it yet. I don't think he's made his best film. And people say about, Chris Nolan's a great director. He'll never be able to direct an action scene like fucking Gareth Evans can do.
No. Well, he can't direct action for shit, Nolan.
No, Gareth Evans is just fucking natural at it.
Well, he was 29 when he made Merantau. When 29, I hadn't even found my arsehole yet, so...
No, I just let the piss out my wheeler.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think Gareth Evans could really, really blossom into something great. Or... he could be Indonesian's answer to Robert Rodriguez. And I don't think either one would be a terrible waste of his talents. I would prefer to see him blossom into like a Gilliam or a Lynch or a Francis Ford Coppola or a Scorsese or whatever. I'd love to see him blend the, mad Indonesian action with the... gangster sensibility of Scorsese and the artistry of a Kubrick or a Gilliam or something. That would be incredible if he was able to pull that off. And there's elements of The Raid 2, whether people like it or not, that does kind of pull that off. But I think it's a stepping stone movie.
Yeah, because it's not, it's certainly not a bad film at all. It's
a great movie. It's overly long.
Yes,
it is overly long. And
which I think goes to show he had complete control over everything.
But when I think about what I would have cut out,
I can't think of anything to cut out.
I mean, every scene tells a story.
Yes.
There isn't a scene in the movie where you're like, well, I don't know why that's in there. I mean, the karaoke scene, maybe.
Yes, I was sitting there thinking it doesn't really need to be in there. It's a great acted scene. The son is really good in that. He shows that he...
It shows that Uko is like really now at this point boiling under the surface.
Yes.
And ready to pop. And it shows that Rama, as much as he's playing the role of being Uko's sidekick, he will speak out when shit gets too disgusting for him to cope with.
Yeah.
Because he really is like about to mistreat this woman. And Uko can't really sit by and watch it anymore.
Yeah. And director's cut, he's going, do it.
But yeah, The Raid 2 is a very complex film for me. My initial review of it was just like, I was blown away by it. Because I was so impressed with the various different things that are going on. And I'm still impressed by the different things that are going on. It's not one I'm going to watch as much as The Raid 1 or even Merantau. Because it's denser, heavier going.
Yeah, you have to watch it. Not like Raid 2, The Raid, where it's just sort of like... you could just have it on... Have a flick around on the internet and then go back for the next action fight. Or, even though you can just sit and watch it and just be amazed by it,
it's just easier to watch.
Well, weirdly enough, more than the action scenes, what I came away from both times was his use of still widescreen. In the setup of the field at the beginning, where they do the assassination, the scenes in the lobby or whatever that is, ballroom or restaurant or whatever that is that Bayo hangs out in, the establishment of the prison riot ground that happens, the fight scene that happens in the prison, the initial establishment of that. The shot when he comes out of prison where it's over the head shot. There's a lot in it where you're like, oh, that's interesting. I know you can do the action, but that's interesting what you're doing there with the camera.
He's doing some really nice shots. And as for the action, I think
action's fucking incredible.
The last fight between Rama and the assassin, I think possibly tops the Mad Dog fight in the raid. I think it's
a totally different fight. It's I don't know that it tops it, but what it is it's more it's way more gory. I mean, it's
way more gory.
Really brutal.
When I think Gareth Evans says about before that when he does an action film, they're sort of like tapping to the beat, because a fight in a film should be like a dance.
Yeah.
And the music in that last fight between Rama and the assassin you can hear the music going with it, and it's like tapping away, and it's building up each last punch with the knife, and it's sort of really well choreographed. You don't know what's going to happen. They've both got knives, and there's so much blood in this film.
I mean, it's almost more like Die Hard. I know a lot of people said the first one was like Die Hard. It's almost more like Die Hard in this, because in this, Rama gets shot, cut up. You know, by the time he comes into that ballroom at the end, he's a real limping, bloody mess. You know, much like when John McClane comes down to finally face off with Hans. He's a limping, bloody mess. You know what I mean? And it's even more like that to some extent.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's exhausted at the end of the raid. He's beaten up at the end of the raid, but he's not so destroyed. I mean, the end of the raid 2, he is destroyed. You don't even understand how he's still standing. You imagine every
and he barely
movement.
is really. He gets out and the Japanese come in. And all of them sort of, you don't hear what they say, do you?
I guess he's saying, have it, do what you want, have at it, it's yours. Because the Japanese guy does a big grin.
Yeah.
So, because Rama's last words are, I'm done.
Yeah. So
he's essentially handed the city over to the Japanese.
Unless the raid 3 is him taking on all those Japanese people.
Right.
It's just 2 hours of about 100 Japanese people coming after him. He's like, fucking hell, I've been shot.
Yeah.
I've been stabbed. And he has to take them all out as well.
Well, I thought... You see, because I didn't... Although it's a long movie, I never really felt its length so much. The second time I watched it a little bit. But even so, when I got to the end of the movie and the camera panned round and the music is swelling and you see the Japanese there, I'm like, I hope there's more. I just hope there's more. I hope that somehow he's a superhero. Like, they ended it... It's not realistic at all because he'd be fucking dead. But they ended it in a fairly understandable, realistic, human way.
Yeah.
But there was a part of me that said, go on, have him take on 100 Japanese guys. Go on. End it like that. End it like fucking just insanity. Because I could have watched more if it was that.
I was talking to Peter Osman on Facebook, on our group. We've got 200 members now.
Yes, excellent. And growing each day.
That's good. And he says...
my penis.
He says he felt it was a little overlong. And I said, yeah, but if it had carried on with another hour of him kicking the shit out of people, I'd have been happy. And he says, yeah, I could have done with that as well.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think action fans are sort of going, bit too much yapping in it.
Yeah.
Not enough punching.
But when you get to the end, no one leaves unsatisfied.
No. And there's plenty of moments where you're like, ooh, especially when he takes on Hammer Girl and baseball bat.
Yeah. But it's interesting how he never gets to avenge his brother, because essentially it's Uko who shoots Bayo through the face. In another fucking brutal shot where you basically see Bayo take a shotgun to the face in one single static shot. Like, you see the side of his face blow open, basically.
Yeah. His mother won't be identifying him on the slab.
And I love it how, in interviews, Gareth Evans said, well, we kept the camera wide. We didn't linger on it. I'm like, fucking linger on it? It was... You saw his face blow off. You see a big flap of skin, like, oh, it's disgusting. Big flap of skin hit the mat as his face exploded.
I think it's just he's not the one who kills him in the end. Rama's not, but that's probably just the way it goes. You probably figured that he probably wouldn't be the one who gets him, because let's be honest, it'd have been unfair anyway. The poor fucker was had a walking stick. I don't think it'd have been much of a fight for.
Right, you had to have the bad guy take that. That's a good point, actually. You had to have one of the bad guys take out the other bad guy because...
And as well, he kind of... Uko probably deserved to kill him more. He just killed his fucking dad because of everything that he's done.
Yeah, Bayo sets it up so Uko fucking kills his dad. That's the other big Shakespearean moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So he probably deserved to kill him more anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Uko goes to the dark side quickly. I mean, and that's the other thing, is that I think if you're looking at this movie as Rama's story, you're right, it drags. But if you look at it as the introduction of Uko and then Uko's story, it doesn't drag because there's a lot of shit going on. And if you had it so that the third scene in the movie, he kills his dad, you would have been like, well, that doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like, why do we care about that? But by the time he kills his dad, even though the dad is like this, clearly like this arsehole gang boss, you really like and respect the dad by the time he gets shot. Like, you hate Uko and you respect the dad. And it needs that length of time in the movie for you as an audience to feel that, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it could have been a 90-minute movie. No. There's no way. It did have to be longer. Because
it's epic in its intentions. It's Godfather-esque. Yes, it's Infernal Affairs-esque. It's... it's got that big sort of epic quality.
And it's good because what they could have done was they could have gone, well, we'll cut down on the violence. And up until the car chase, you probably think, well, they've really cut down on the violence. And all of a sudden it's like Gareth Evans goes, right, we've done a bit of story now, let's give the people what they really want.
Yeah. And he did cut out... There was one gang-on-gang gun battle that he cut out and then posted online before the movie came out.
I didn't watch that until when I got back from the cinema.
Yes, that's when I watched it. I watched it after I saw the first movie, yeah.
The car chase is great as well.
Well, that's the other thing, is I think the car chase shows that if Gareth Evans wants to just go off to Hollywood and make the next Die Hard or whatever, like, you know what I mean? If he wants to make the next... If they tap him to direct, like, Die Hard 6, or if they tap him to direct the next in an action franchise, or, I hope they try and get him for Expendables 4, you know what I mean? Like, I really fucking hope that... Or Stallone says, okay, if I'm going to do one more Rambo, let's have him do it. Or if I'm going to do one more action movie, let's have him do it. Or if he goes off and works on Hollywood with Scott Adkins. What the car chase shows... The car chase does two things. It shows that Evans can do more than just sort of... hand-to-hand martial art combat fighting. Shooting, rather. But it also shows that it makes an action star even more so of Iko Uwais in the Western mold, because there's that big stunt he does jumping car to car, which he did for real, by the way.
Yes.
And because Hollywood action movies tend to be guns and cars more than they tend to be fist on fist. I think it both sets Gareth Evans up to have, if he wants to just make a generic Hollywood action movie, he could make a really fucking good one. And I think if Iko Uwais wants to come to America and have a career, he could, again, have a really fucking good one.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like it when he shoots that motorbike guy straight in the face with a machine gun.
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
Well, there's lots of awesome bits in it, and I love the development of Eka, his character, and how they kind of pair up during the car chase. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's really good.
I love
each character left you wanting to know a little bit more about them.
Yes. If Evans does anything well, his plots may be generic as some people have levelled at him. He does character really well, though.
Yeah. And the actors do really well.
Yes.
The acting's superb by everybody involved.
Iko is 10 times better in this than he's been in anything else, in terms of emotional acting. It's incredible. Well,
considering he's had no training as an actor, he
had a couple of months boot camp sort of drama training before Merantau.
Okay.
And then before the raid, he did... Well, the whole cast before the raid did a 2-week-long actual SWAT team boot camp where they all lived in a camp and they were trained by real SWAT members and treated as such. They weren't treated as like actors. They were treated as proper SWAT guys. So they did like a proper hardcore up at 5, 50 push-ups type, boot camp type thing, where they all live together and form bonds and jokes and stuff like that. Which is, everything in the raid when they're going in as a unit is fairly accurate. It's all based on real manoeuvres and stuff like that.
Yeah, with the fingers telling you what to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, not just that, but like the formations and the way to fire weapons and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I go up and ring the doorbell.
Yeah.
With a spud gun.
So yeah, but Gareth Evans has said that each movie, what he's been interested in doing has been pushing Iko as an actor,
which is good. It is good.
Really,
they're a good pair, actually.
I mean, Evans has a really... every time I've seen him interviewed, he has a really good head on his shoulders.
Yeah.
He's got to be really careful what he does with the rest of his career, obviously.
Apparently, if you look at IMDb for the Raid 3, it says either rumoured or confirmed. Apparently, Tony Jaa is confirmed for the Raid 3.
Really? That's interesting.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, after seeing The Protector 2, he needs a good movie.
Well, Skin Trade looks like it's going to be damn good.
Skin Trade looks like it... Well, because Skin Trade's written by Lundgren. Skin Trade is kind of like written and produced by Lundgren and has a phenomenal cast. You've got like Weller and Perlman as the gangster guys. You've got Jaa White, Lundgren and Jaa as the fighters.
It sounded like I was being disrespectful earlier about Tony Jaa. I just don't think he's made that much of an impact with his...
He's a very happy fella, though, isn't he? He's always leaping about.
I think that's sort of... Since I've liked the page on Facebook, I don't know if I can take him... If there's a fucking tree, he'll climb it. He's like a kid who's continuously eating Smarties on a sugar rush.
Yes.
Which is great. If you can live your life like that, brilliant.
Well,
think about us miserable fuckers.
Think about us. He's the Thailand Jean-Claude Van Damme, isn't he?
He must be. I mean, if this is right, if they're setting up Rama, Iko Uwais to take on Tony Jaa in a film, that's going to be fucking amazing.
That's going to be insane.
She was saying he's obviously trying to crack America with Fast and Furious 7.
And Skin Trade, yeah. That's going to be a 1-2 punch. He did another movie with...
Why the fuck is
Dolph Lundgren, didn't he? A Man Will Rise. But that's not coming out, is it? There's some problem with that or something. It's stuck in editing hell or something.
Well, Tony Jaa's co-directed it, so it looks like it's
it's probably had a clash of what they're going for.
Well, because he posted loads of pictures of him and Lundgren gearing up to do that movie, and then the next thing we knew, it was skin trade, and that's all it's been since then.
Yeah, well, why's that got a release date of 2015?
Skin trade?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because it looks done.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
It looks like he's happy enough walking around Beverly Hills.
Well, there's also rumours that he's going to work with Van Damme. That's the other thing we want to see.
That'd be good. Happy bastards. Is that what it's going to be called? The Happy Bastards?
The Happy Bastards. They just go around like leaping in the air doing splits. Woohoo! We are the happy cunts.
So yeah, it's going to be a good few years and in store for action fans, and it kind of looks like it's going to be coming from the Far East at the minute, by the looks of it, from a Welshman.
I have no problem with that.
No, I have no problem with that. Absolutely.
No, I think Gareth Evans has shown with the Raid 2 what he can do. I mean, I think he maybe needs a stronger editor. He has even admitted himself that he's not a particularly great editor, although he does edit his own stuff. So I think maybe he does need a stronger editor, and he may even get that. The studio may even insist on that. I look forward to anything he has to do in the future.
Yeah, he's a hell of a talent. Hell of a good talent.
The Raid is its own little self-contained, like, perfect... put it on and just relish in the choreography type movie.
Yeah.
But each one of the movies has something new, different, and interesting going for it.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Definitely. It's a nice progression if you watch it. It's a lovely progression.
It's a progression, but it's also a guy, like, trying stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
he could have made The Raid 2 and it could have been Die Hard 2.
I think if The Raid 2 had come out first and then he'd done The Raid, you know, people would have been even more blown away. Like he said, the problem with The Raid 2 is that CLAT and the surprise of what Eco can do has already been...
Yeah, it's already been done. You can't really shock you that much more with... But, you know, it can make the fight choreography better or more grand or keep it on a par. But you're not going to be able to get that initial reaction that you've already got. Well,
let me say that there are two types of people. There are people who went into the Raid 2 who were disappointed that it wasn't just the Raid again. And that was me for like the first half an hour of my first screening of it. But by the time I came out of it, I had become the second type of person, which is the person that is glad he didn't just do the Raid 2 again and would have been disappointed had he just done the Raid again.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with the Raid 2 is that it's not going to please everybody. That's the problem with it.
Yeah.
Because half the people want just the Raid again, and the other half of the people don't want the Raid. Like the people who were criticising the Raid, the people who said there's no plot, there's no character development, there's no blah, 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 blah. The Raid 2 is like, no plot, no character development. Here's fucking massive amounts of plot and character development. Yeah. So yeah, it's an odd one. I'm glad that halfway through that first screening I became the second kind of person. I'm glad that I came out of it appreciating what Evans was trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, he could have tried it and it could have failed miserably, so... well done to him.
Yeah, I mean, I stand by my initial review, which basically said, don't go in expecting the Raid. However, if what you like about the Raid is him kicking the shit out of people,
you get
the
it.
last 20 minutes, you get it.
Yeah, and it's a hell of a good action-packed 20 minutes.
But it's the last 20 minutes at the end of a 150-minute movie.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
But it could have been a 120-minute movie, and none of that. I mean, if it had finished just before the car chase, you'd be like, where's my set pieces?
Right.
But,
I think he needs... I think there needed to be more action scattered throughout.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think it's also a movie that's only going to grow. I don't think... I think it's only going to grow in people's tastes. I think it's going to be one that people, like, occasionally come back to.
They're all good. I mean, any day of the week, I'd put on any of them.
Yeah, I mean, look, compare this to The Protector 2, right? The Protector, along with The Raid, because once I saw The Raid, I went up and stayed with our friend Mo in Connecticut. Mosive porn. That should now be his ringtone. Mosive porn. And I said to him about The Raid, and I was sort of singing its praises. And he was like, well, if you like this, we should watch these movies. And he showed me The Protector, and he showed me District
He showed you a porn from the 70s.
Yeah, he showed me All Holes Barred, it was called, and All Holes Filled.
There's nothing like The Raid. Oh, The Raid. I thought you said The Babe.
Yeah. It was relentless, though, that poor woman. She was drenched by the end of it. So... Anyway, he showed me that, and then when I explained to him what movie I actually wanted to see, he showed me The Protector and he showed me District B13. I've not seen the sequel to District B13, although I do own it, so I need to watch that. But The Protector is a prime example of where the first movie, much like The Raid, blew my mind. Like, I really fucking loved it. Really, really fucking loved it. Thought it was great. But the sequel to The Protector... It's just The Protector again, but done badly. Like, not done very well at all. Like, done with a lot of CGI and RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan. It really is. It's really bad CGI throughout, to the point where it's almost takes you out of the film.
It's really shocking that Gareth Evans makes The Raid. He goes, right, that was fucking groundbreaking. Gareth. What are you going to do with the second one? It's going to be a lot denser. I want more plot. But don't worry, we're not going to skimp on the action. I promise there's going to be a few action scenes scattered throughout this dense plot about an undercover policeman. But the last 20 minutes, I'm going to put you in an action car chase that's as good as anything Hollywood can produce, and the set pieces at the end are going to be amazing. Brilliant, thanks, Gareth. And he achieved it. The Protector, they went, what's this film about? It's got some great set pieces. It's about his missing elephant.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with The Protector 2? He's lost his fucking elephant again, hasn't he?
Only this time we're going to film it on half the budget, and all the...
It's not, though. It's more.
Is it?
I think so.
Because in the first Protector, there's that amazing scene... with the flames all around him and the water and all that.
It's great, isn't it?
Is it in a temple or something?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And in the second one, they went, "Oh, we've got to have a flaming room again, but let's just CGI it. That'll work, right?" And it's literally him in a box. There's no like decoration or set decoration or anything particularly interesting. It's just him in a room that happens to be on fire. But it's CGI fire. It's really... Like, I was watching The Potato 2 and I was like, really? This is, like, really bad. I mean, the end fight, they stick 2 bombs in the elephant's tusks. That's, like, the big end set piece. And the second to last fight, the penultimate fight, is him and RZA. With RZA almost winning against Tony Jaa.
Oh God, you're not gonna believe this. It's almost 3 times the budget of the first one.
What, The Protector 2 is?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So it says this is Wikipedia, so I'm not. It's saying
The Protector 2 looks like it was made for.
Protector 1 was made for 5 million. Protector 2, 12 to 50 million.
Wow.
RZA got paid well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is the Raid 2 could have been the Protector 2, and let's be thankful it's not.
Yes. Missing elephant.
So that's it. So did you have any more to say on the matter?
No. I think we could sit and talk about the Raid for the next 24 hours and still not get
I'm going to, even though no one's listening.
It's just the Raid's just amazing. If you've not watched it yet, go and buy it. Don't rent it. There's no need to rent it. You need to buy it because you'll watch it continuously.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's cheap now anyway, so just go and buy it.
Talking about the remake.
Well, yeah, I mean, what fight style they're going to use in the remake? It's already been done. And if they go with the Hemsworths, I don't think they're going to be able to match.
If they go with the Hemsworth, it's absolutely pointless. It's really pointless.
Yeah.
They need, they need to go with Atkins.
Yes.
If any Westerner can replace Rama in a lead role as a Western lead role, it's Atkins.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think Gareth Evans agrees with us.
And I would have Statham as Mad Dog.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'd have who could play the? I'd have Leonard Ross to play in. Reza.
You could have. I tell you, do you know what you could do? You could have Adkins playing the main role, and you could have Shalabi play his brother.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. Or you could have Shalabi as Mad Dog.
No, I'd have Statham as Mad Dog.
You'd have Statham. Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But still keep Leonard Ross to as Reza.
Because it would take yeah, of course. It would take Shalabi and Adkins to take down Statham.
Yeah. Because it's good at the start of when he shoots them all at the start of the Raid, and then he sort of goes over to the drawer. He puts the gun on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Opens that's a great shot where he sort of opens the drawer and all the bullets come flying out. You think, he's just going to reload his gun, and he pulls out the hammer.
Yeah.
That's a template, isn't it, of what a fucking nutter the bloke is.
Yeah. It's funny how all the people I would cast in my perfect action movie, modern action movie, would be British.
Yes.
Has there been another time in history where that would have been the case? Really not, is there?
British
no. We've had Daniels, we've had Shalabi, but we've never had, you could essentially cast, and I wouldn't mind, you could essentially cast the whole of the Raid remake with British actors.
Yeah. You could have Michael Caine as the gang boss.
You'd have Michael Caine as the gang boss.
Yeah.
But he could say, I'm bloody pissed off. I've got this building, and all they're doing is bloody destroying it.
Yeah. That guy goes over the tunnel and goes, You'd have had Michael Caine go, go and tear down the bloody walls if you want to, and if you kill them, your rent's free for a year. Go on, lads.
Have at it. You could have Caine as the gang boss. You could have... who would be like the old turncoat policeman? Who would you cast as that?
I'd cast...
Thor Hurd.
Combo.
Peter Sallis.
Yeah, he's still alive. I'd go for him. Now then, lads.
We can't call for backup.
We're in here by ourselves, lads. I'm sorry, lad. Yeah, I'd have him.
I ate all the cheese. No, seriously though, I don't know who to.
I'd go for...
Hugh Grant. You always loved him.
I'd go for... I tell you what, you could have Liam Neeson in it. He's British.
You could have Neeson. You could have... I'd even have Vinnie Jones in there if you wanted.
I'd have him as the Machete Man.
Machete Jones.
Yeah, Machete Jones.
Oi.
Who else?
You could have, I tell you could have as the turncoat cop, you could have someone like a Tim Roth.
Yes.
Or a Gary Oldman, like an older character actor.
Gary Oldman as the gang boss.
Gary Oldman is the gang boss, and Tim Roth is the turncoat cop.
Yes.
And Liam Neeson as Liam Neeson in a cameo scene.
He's just walking around.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what.
Take a set of skills that I'll use in a minute.
I've just got to sit down and have an ice cream. Getting very old. Yeah, that's who I would cast. There we go. Done. With Atkins in the lead. Shalavi is his brother.
Yeah. Statham is Mad Dog.
Yeah. Or Statham in the lead and Atkins is Mad Dog. But I think Atkins and Shalavi work better as brothers.
Yeah. I think we've cast that well.
Yeah. It's a shame we can't have the Compo Rossiter mix. That would have been great.
Well, that would have turned it from a 9.5 into a 10.
Yeah.
Because Compo, you see his Mad Dog, don't you?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You look at Compo and you think, if he bites me, I might get rabies.
Yeah.
So, no, I think we've cast that very well.
Yeah, we've done it. That's it. Call off the search.
Yeah. We're done. Finished.
Well, that was fun, man. I enjoyed talking those movies with you.
That was good. I really enjoyed that, Woody.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Very cool. And, you'll be back on the diner again with Jason Statham double bill. Am I not right?
You are right. Home front and safe, I do believe.
Yes, and also we're going to be doing Sin City, and Sin City, she's a dame to kill for.
That's not until August, is it?
No, that'll be August. Yeah. So yeah, probably June time we'll do the Stath.
Excellent.
I like that.
I like saying that.
I am afraid your building we will have to raid on men are heavily armed and woefully underpaid. It can't be delayed. This heavy-handed raid on the whim of a crooked cop. We're gonna try and make it to the top. We'll bust your drug dens with our exciting fighting style, but you'll kill most of our team without cracking so much as a smile. We've come too far for you to simply just show us the door, but also you've lost everything waging this futile grubby war. Man, you know that's the truth. I'm sorry, my friend, but I'm gonna have to raid again. The cops are still corrupt and it is driving me round the bend to raid again. These gangsters, son, you're gonna have to befriend, and then when you're undercover, kick the hell out of all them mothers. Their claw hammers and their nifty baseball bat is no match for your skills in CLAT. Oh, when you will absolutely destroy a bloody kitchen while fighting with their mean lead assassin. Oh, la la. La 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 la. But in the end, you will have had enough. And who can blame ya? Man, it has been rough. Now you better take a rest before you make part 3, where you'll be raiding a third time, I guess. Basically, and that's a film that I can't wait to see. And let's hope Eco doesn't raise his bloody fee. La 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 la.
There are men, and then there are second unit podcast men. The podcast you've just been listening to is part of the Second Unit Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at 2upn.blogspot.com or on Facebook under the Second Unit Podcast Network. Our fantastic list of shows include Drunk on VHS, We Came from the Basement, No Budget Nightmares, The After Movie Diner, Dr.Action and the Kick-Ass Kid, and Bloodbaths and Boomsticks. Take one podcast into the shower. Don't be a blithering idiot, Alan. We can give you the multiple podcast cleansing system all in one place that your hair deserves. Our programming is available across all platforms, from iTunes to Podomatic, TalkShoe to Stitcher, so you have absolutely no excuse. Listen today, and a free naked person of your choice will be shipped from Thailand to your door in a matter of weeks. The Second Unit Podcast Network, bringing you the action and leaving the boring stuff to the other guys. Bloody hell. Who does a girl have to blow around here to get a decent beverage?